Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to adapt Ben Marriott's spray paint tutorial and add a 3D can using the free Cinema 4D Lite that comes with After Effects. So starting in After Effects, we come up to File, New, Maxon Cinema 4D file. That will ask you to save. That will launch Cinema 4D Lite. So let's start by making the can. If we come up to this box icon and hold and click, we can get a few different primitives, these are called. So if we go to the cylinder, that will bring a cylinder into our scene. And let's actually turn on display garage shading with lines so we can actually see the segments. We're going to add a few more segments to the rotation just to make this kind of nice and smooth. Now there are two ways to duplicate inside of Cinema 4D. You can either click Control or Apple and click and drag to get a plus icon in the Objects Manager, and that will make a duplicate, as you can see. Or kind of the easier way is to do it with inside the perspective view, and that's just making sure you're on one of these arrows and then clicking and dragging while holding Control, and we get to make a duplicate like that. Now, just quickly talk about moving around our scene. We can either use these icons in the top right hand corner, or a good habit to get into is using the 1, 2 and 3 keys and the mouse. So 1 click and drag is pan, 2 click and drag is zoom in and out, 3 click and drag is orbit. And that'll just turn into muscle memory after a while. So let's zoom in a little bit here and shrink down this second cylinder just using this yellow handle here. We're going to make that kind of this size, and then let's add some caps to that. So we can go to the caps within our attributes and say fillet, and then maybe add a couple more segments to the fillet. And as you can see, if I zoom in here using our 2 key and the mouse, we get a nice kind of round edge. So we can bring that right on top of our can. And then let's actually make a second one of those. So clicking and dragging, holding Control to duplicate. And then the first one we made, let's actually click that and just make it a little bit smaller. So we can either do that inside our radius here, you know, making it bigger or smaller, or we can hold the T key and do that in the perspective view. I just want to kind of add a little kind of rivet to this can. I think we should also add some fillet to the main can, so let's make sure that's selected, add caps, add fillet, and now everything's just got some nice rounding to it. And if you're just getting started with 3D and want to start learning the basics, I've got a free course over on my website. There's a link in the description below. So next thing I want to do is create the kind of cone shaped top. So we're going to click, drag on that box again, add a cone, and then bring that up. We can use this yellow handle to kind of bring down the size there, and we can use this one to bring down the width. So you can kind of plonk that on top and roughly get that to the right shape. I think something like that's quite good for now. So let's flatten off this top by making sure we're on the cone, going to our attributes and the object, and just getting that top radius, kind of bringing that width out a little bit. And then we can also bring it all down, probably something like this. And then again, let's add some caps to that to kind of smooth off that edge. So last thing is just that kind of top nozzle. So we can grab any one of our other cylinders, bring that up, and we can then shrink that down in size and do something like that using those handles. Cool, so let's zoom out using the 2 key. And that's our basic can. Next thing I want to do is add a camera to our scene, so no surprises which one that is. Click the camera icon, make sure you're looking through it just by checking the little box next to it, and then go to coordinates, and we can zero out all the coordinates there in rotation and position. making sure that's all on 0. And then we can just use the Z and just kind of pull back until our can is kind of nicely framed up, the size we want it. An easier way to kind of do the animation is to be looking through our 4-up view. So that if you press this little icon, the last icon in the top right hand corner, you'll see we have a top view, a right view, and a front view. We really want this front view, so I'm going to use the 1 and 2 keys to just zoom out there until we can kind of see the whole frame our camera is taking up. And this is almost like we could imagine 2D After Effects, so we can draw a path in here and the can will like perfectly follow it. So let's pack all of those shapes up into a null just by selecting everything with Shift, right clicking and going to Group Objects, and we can call this can null. If I zoom in here, just make sure all our animation we want to come from the kind of top of the can. So if I select this little arrow icon, I can actually move that anchor point to the top of the can, and then make sure to unclick that or else you'll move things around. Next, let's look at the animation. So if we kind of want this to start in the top and snake down, and then kind of come off the end of the screen. So I always like to kind of play the timeline back just to see if the timing will be good. So it's in. I think that's probably enough time, just about. We could add maybe a little bit more. Let's go to 120. And that's just going to extend our timeline. Adding 120 in both of these sections down here. And then let's start by having the can just off screen. So I'm really utilizing this front view here. And actually one quite important thing is to have the can level to the edge of the camera's frame. That means it will nicely line up within After Effects. So let's bring it right off to the side there. All we need to do is add some keyframes. Now, unlike After Effects where you kind of move it and it adds an automatic keyframe, you have to add it each time. You can put on this automatic mode, but it kind of gets a bit weird. So what I like to do is take off these two options and just leave on position and rotation. That way, whenever our playhead is at a certain point, we can just hit this key icon, and as you can see, that adds keyframes on the position and the rotation. So it's going to kind of come in maybe at 15 seconds. It's in. I'm going to just zoom out here a little bit. So it comes in like that. Let's add those keyframes, hitting that key. So then we move the playhead along to maybe about 60, and it's moved down to about here. And then remember the key icon again. Then let's move the playhead on again to about 90. It kind of goes up. Key icon. And then move the playhead along. And last position there. Hit the key icon. And then finally it goes off screen. So as you can see, that's our animation path. Let's quickly play that back to see what that looks like. So not the smoothest thing. Let's work on those animation paths a little bit. And then really all we want to look at the moment is the X position and the Y position. And to scale this, just use the 1 and 2 keys. So 2 is kind of zoom out and 1 is pan around. So you'll be able to line that up. With that X and Y highlighted, we can kind of move these around a little bit, smooth them out. So after you're happy with that animation curve, you can add some rotation. I'm kind of thinking it kind of swoops in like that. So let's put some keyframes there and then go forward. Maybe it can kind of overswing at that point. One thing I want to do just before bringing it into After Effects is go up to this cog icon and change this to Full HD, so 1920 by 1080. Save Apple or Control S, jump back to After Effects, and then take that file, throw it onto a comp, and you can see that inside of After Effects. So next thing, I'm going to bring in Ben's tutorial here. He kindly gave everyone his files, so I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to go down to this spray paint. I'm going to throw our file we just made on top of it. So now we can see the kind of Cinema 4D file on top. And then from here, I'm just going to firstly turn off all these extra bits like the drip and the spray start. And I'm going to then just move this line into position. So if I use the pen tool, let's just work out where our can kind of starts. Let's have it start spraying about there. And I'm going to use the pen tool and just move these into position so it kind of swoops down. So that looks like a pretty good path for it. And then last thing you have to do is obviously retime this animation. So let's just put points on the points. So that's the bottom of there. Let's add a keyframe. So it's still lagging behind quite a lot. All we need to do is go into the value graph. I'll let you do the fine tuning, but that looks pretty good for now. So you're looking at this in a draft render at the moment. So all you need to do is click the Cinema 4D file, and then in the Cineware options, just change this to either current, or if you want to see the final version, which will take a little longer, change that to current. If you want to learn about adding color and materials to the can, I've got a tutorial on that, which I'll link up here. Well, I hope that was useful. If it was, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe. Really helps the channel when making new videos.